Please listen to the legal disclaimer at the end of this video. Good afternoon, this is Boiler. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about student debt. I want to talk about the student loan fiasco that we're currently going through, and I don't really see an end to it. And I got to admit that I haven't really had a lot of problems with student debt, but I wanted to talk about it. I want to talk about perhaps some strategies to get out of it. I have a student loan, but it's pretty minuscule and it's manageable. Most people that have student loans, I believe, have them that are unmanageable. So anyhow, I just want to talk a little bit about it. Let's start by talking about the statistics. There's all kinds of statistics out there, but looking at my notes, I wanted to talk about a few statistics just to make sure you're up to speed on what's going on. 45% of all 25-year-olds have student debt. 45%. That's almost half of 25-year-olds have some kind of student debt. 15% of the people that have student debt are behind, so they have an issue. 70% of all prospective degree holders have student debt. So if you go to school, 70% of you're 70% likely to have student debt. So that's a little bit alarming also. But here's the statistic that I read that kind of killed me and made me want to talk about this: is there are more people under 30 with student debt than there are with degrees. So that's very alarming. So I think if you put aside the legal issues that I'll just talk a little bit about, but I think the message to young people should be, if you're going to get student debt, make damn sure you finish the degree. Can you imagine having all this debt and not finishing the degree? You're going to have a crappy job and have all this debt. So if you finish the degree, you'll have debt and have maybe a mediocre job. I don't know. Anyhow, I've put out a podcast on iTunes about whether college degrees were worth it, and there's no really good answer for that. It seemed like to me, just to kind of sum it up, that having a degree and having all that debt kind of evens out with just having a normal trade, being a really good mechanic or something. It seems like to me that you're going to make the same amount of money, but you're going to have a better job, less physical labor or whatever. So anyhow, it's up to the individual whether they get a degree, but if you start taking on debt, you better finish. That's my fatherly advice. So let's talk a little bit about what you can do if you have student debt and it's in trouble. So you may or may not know that if you declare bankruptcy, these debts stay with you. They're guaranteed by the government, so no matter what, somehow they're going to get this debt. I have a friend that thought he was getting an $8,000 tax refund, and he had a problem with a student loan, and they just took the $8,000 out of that, and so every time he gets money back for his taxes, it gets taken out of that. So it's really, really hard to escape from underneath a student loan without paying it, and sometimes given situations don't allow you to pay it. So I get all that. I get it. So I talk a lot about the FDCPA, the FCRA, and the TCPA. So the FDCPA, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, talks about how debt collectors can interact with you, and they almost always break the law. So this is going to help you if you have a student loan issue. FCRA is how they report it on your credit report, so that's another avenue. And the TCPA is the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, and that's when they call you, how all that should work, and what to do if they don't follow those laws. So I think the big one with student loans is going to be the FDCPA. The FDCPA absolutely does apply to people collecting for student debt. So the original creditors, say it's Chase Bank, the FDCPA doesn't apply to them. But if you're in trouble and somebody else calls you to collect for that debt, say it's a law firm or some schmuck collection agency or whatever, the FDCPA absolutely does apply to them, so hold them to it. So there is legal citation that says that collecting for student loans is under the umbrella of the FDCPA, and that law citation is Court versus Court, KORT, versus Diversified Collection Services Incorporated, and that's from 2003, and I believe it's North Dakota. So if you want to look that up, if you're involved with a collection agency for a student loan and they say it doesn't apply, that's a lawsuit that you tell them, or send them, print it out and send them the whole thing. However you want to handle it. So it's still going to be difficult to use the FDCPA, because the FDCPA, if there's a violation, it's usually just $1,000, unless it's something really egregious or something crazy. But just in general, it's $1,000 per violation, not per violation, per lawsuit. So say they violated by, say you ask them to validate the debt, they didn't validate it. So the GB section of the FDCPA talks about that, and say that's their violation. So when you sue them, you can only get $1,000 for that. So what you might be able to do if they're suing you in county court is just have it wash out. It depends on how big of an issue that student loan is. If it's like mine's under $5,000, so that might work out. But if you have a $90,000 student loan, I doubt that it's all going to wash away. But it sure would be nice to get $1,000, and look at it this way: it'll make a couple payments, or make 10 payments, or however you want to look at it. But my main point tonight was that there is a problem. The FDCPA absolutely does apply to these people. It doesn't apply to the original creditor, because it hardly ever does. It applies to the original creditor if the original creditor takes the debt, sells it to somebody, and then that person sells it back to them. So that's the only time that it really applies to them, to the original creditor. So anyhow, if you have any questions about this, study the FDCPA. I have other videos about the FDCPA at notlegaladvice.org. Check them out. It's there for you. Like I said, I'm not an expert on student loans. I just wanted to mention that the FDCPA absolutely does apply to people collecting on student loans. And that's all I have for today. If you have any questions, give me an email, shoot me an email. My email address is boiler@notlegaladvice.org. Thanks. Have a great day. This is the legal disclaimer. While the information on this site deals with legal issues, it does not constitute legal advice. The materials in this video and related websites are provided for informational purposes only and do not constitute legal advice. We do not advise on the application of law to an individual's specific circumstances. Although we go to great lengths to make sure our information is accurate and useful, we recommend you consult a lawyer if you want professional assurance that our information and your interpretation of it is appropriate to your particular situation. There are no lawyers in this video or on the notlegaladvice.org family of websites. The contact information for this video is notlegaladvice.org, that is the main blog, nlapublishing.org, that is the main book site. The email address is boiler@notlegaladvice.org. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me. I'd love to hear from you.